is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another book video. If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Karla and I make book videos like these from time to time. But I am so excited specifically for this video because if I remember correctly, my second ever book video that I ever made on my channel was a TikTok related book video, and it's really exciting to keep making these videos because maybe like 60% of the books that I read I get from TikTok, and I'm not even mad about it. Like, I'm not even embarrassed about it because I have read some really great books from TikTok. So hopefully most of the books that I talk about you guys recognize from your own For You page, and maybe you've been thinking about reading it, and I'm going to tell you why I think they're amazing. However, before we get started, I am going to talk about today's sponsor, which is Book of the Month. I think I've worked with Book of the Month on almost all of my book videos. Not all of them, but almost. And I continue to be just as obsessed with them as I was the first time I worked with them. But anyways, Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for all readers. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and to help readers discover books that they love. Their team vets hundreds of books each month, and they give readers their choice from a curated selection of new and early release titles. That way you're spending more time reading and less time researching. They're completely risk-free, so you can skip any month at any time and you will not be charged. They have the best prices for new release hardcover fiction, and for this month, if you use the code SPRING, you can get your first book for only $9.99. My two selections this month were this one called Romantic Comedy. It's literally a romantic comedy called Romantic Comedy. So obviously with that title and with this cover, this had to be one of my choices this month. And my second book selection was this one right here. This is Advika and the Hollywood Wives. If you guys haven't tried out Book of the Month, definitely check them out. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this portion of the video, and let's get started with my book recommendations. I was going through all of my book choices and I was like, the first book that I talk about needs to be one that you like immediately recognize. So I decided to start with this book right here. This is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This was a book that I barely finished. I actually finished this last week, so it's still kind of like fresh in my mind. I saw this book everywhere on my For You page for literally months before I decided to buy it and actually read it. But spoiler alert, I was not disappointed. I literally enjoyed this book so much. It was such a cute rom-com. Also, Nate, which is the book boyfriend, is literally one of my new favorite book boyfriends. He was so endearing to read about. It was really nice. Also, the friend group in this book was so hilarious and it added so much more to the book. Basically, the story is about a hockey player and an ice skater, and this book gets your attention like this. It's also incredibly spicy. I was not expecting that. Like, look at this cover. It looks like the cutest cover of like the most innocent little sweet book you've ever read. No, not at all. I posted a vlog last week when I was just starting this book, and I was at Barnes & Noble reading this book, and one of you guys commented that I was really brave for reading this book in public, and I quickly understood why, because this book is incredibly spicy, but it's very entertaining. The only thing that kept this book from being a 5-star read is that I feel like towards the end, like a few chapters towards the end, it just felt like the book dragged on just a little bit. I just felt like it could have been shortened just a little bit, but I thought the ending of this book was absolutely perfect. BookTok definitely did not disappoint with this one. Next up, we have another one of my recent reads and another book that's incredibly hyped up on TikTok. This is Magnolia Parks. You guys have no idea how relieved I was when I was like midway through this book and I was actually enjoying it and I was like loving it, because this book I actually put off reading it for a really long time, and every single time when somebody would describe it as like a really toxic love story, I was just like, you know what, that does not sound like my type of book. I was very wrong, because all of a sudden this became my type of book. All I can tell you about this book is that this is easily one of the most interesting books that I've read, simply because it's so different, and that's the thing that I feel like you should know before you read this book. I've also only read the first one, so if this is how strongly I feel about just the first one, I don't even know how I'm gonna feel when I finish the rest of the series. Usually how a romance story goes, or just like how a story goes in general, you meet the characters, there's an issue in their lives, the issue gets resolved, and then it's like happily ever after. That is not how this book goes, not at all. And I honestly think that's why this story was so addicting. It's because it felt so different. It's about a friend group that is incredibly rich, but the story focuses on Magnolia Parks and BJ, which is the guy. They're both in their early 20s and they have known each other their entire lives. Did I mention that they were incredibly rich? That's a big part, because it's so, like how I said, unrelatable, but that is why it's so interesting. Because if they were working a simple 9-to-5 job, you'd be like, break up already. Like, it's not that interesting, just get it over with. This couple in the book should be together, and like on paper they sound perfect. Like, they come from two very wealthy families. They've known each other their entire lives. They know literally everything there is to know about each other. They're basically soulmates, but they do some really shitty things to each other, The entire time I was reading this book, I was like, I don't even know where this book is headed, where this story is headed, but that's the point. But I honestly think this is one of the most entertaining, intoxicating reads I have ever experienced, and it was so good, and I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. If you guys have read the series, please comment down below. It deserves all the hype it's getting on TikTok. If anything, give it more hype. Next book I'm talking about is one of my new favorites, also a recent read. This is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. First of all, this book had me bawling my eyes out at the end of it. Let's just say that. This book takes you through a right person, wrong time type of love story. It is about Matt and Grace, and the book is split into two parts. The first part being the past and the present being the second part. The past being where Matt and Grace meet in college, and they spent one whole year together. That is it, just 1 year, and then after that 1 year, their lives go separate ways. In that single year, they go through so much together, they become inseparable, and they literally become each other's love of their lives. But after that year, like I said, their lives take them separate ways. But it isn't until one day in the subway in New York City where they reunite and see each other again for the first time in 15 years. This is nothing short of an iconic, epic love story. If your faith in love needs to be restored, pick up this book right here because it is so good. Seriously, go read this book. It's so good. I have kind of a big pile here. This is a book talk video. It's a TikTok recommendations video. Of course, I had to mention the two queens of book talk, which is Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is my favorite author of all time, and Colleen Hoover. Both Taylor Jenkins Reid and Colleen Hoover, I feel like, are the epitome of book talk. Like, I feel like their books have gone viral so many times, and so many people have picked up a book for the very first time because of them, which I think is so incredibly cool. Also, I was ranting about this the other day, and I feel like I have to say it in a video just to like fully let it out. I was on a weird side of book talk, I think, but I came across somebody recommending books, and I went on the comments of that video, and so many people were bashing Colleen Hoover. It wasn't comments like, oh, I didn't enjoy that book, or I didn't like that book, which is totally valid because we all have different opinions, and there's literally like a handful of Colleen Hoover books that I've read that I didn't enjoy either. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna go and bash people that actually did enjoy those books. People were talking about her writing style and like, you're not smart if you read Colleen Hoover books, just all of these crazy things. And I was like, since when did people start hating on reading? I was just so astonished. I was like, that is literally insane to me. I hadn't seen that side of like reading on the internet before, because I feel like somebody's reading taste is like music. Like, everybody likes something different. Also because I think it's so incredibly cool that the amount of people that have picked up a book for the first time in like years, like I literally had somebody tell me that they hadn't picked up a book since like kindergarten until they picked up It Ends With Us or Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. All of these really popular viral books that made people want to read for literally like the first time ever. I think that is what we need to focus on. Anyways, I told you guys I needed to rant about that. So I wanted to show you guys what I think are like the really popular books by Taylor Jenkins Reid and Colleen Hoover, and then give you guys a recommendation that maybe you haven't read but I feel like you'd really enjoy. Okay, so for Colleen Hoover, I feel like these are her top 3 in my opinion anyway, because I feel like there's so many, but I feel like these are the ones that people gravitate towards, and maybe if you're watching this you've probably already read them. But if you have read these 3 and you're looking for something by Colleen Hoover that's just as good or maybe a little better, then this is the one you need to read. I feel like this book went viral on TikTok like a couple years ago, but I feel like not enough people have read it since. This is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. If you've read Reminders of Him, this book has a really similar vibe where it will literally crush your spirit and your soul and your heart in half, but you will be content at the end. This book and this love story is about Quinn and Graham. I still think about them from time to time. This book will literally stick with you like that. As Colleen Hoover does with a lot of her books, this takes you from past to present. So in the past, Quinn and Graham are falling in love, and in the past you see them becoming this like incredibly perfect for each other type of couple. They are each other's person. They have this like perfect meant to be relationship where it's not necessarily perfect, but they are so perfect for each other that it just makes sense. But the part where this book really breaks you is where you go from the past, which is that, to the present, which is them 7 years later. Now they're married and their relationship is basically falling apart. It honestly shows you how powerful the power of love is. If you've been reading a lot of Colleen Hoover and you're looking for something just as good, this is perfect. Moving on to my queen and the author that I feel like does no wrong. She could write a story on an ugly old piece of napkin that smells bad and I would still read it. I literally can't pick my favorites. It literally feels like I'm choosing between my kids, and I don't even have kids. But these are the ones that I feel like most people have read. If you haven't, stop this video, get out of YouTube, and go buy the book because they're so good. Daisy Jones and the Six, one of my favorites of all time. Carrie Soto, absolutely amazing. Malibu Rising, absolutely amazing. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The reason I continue to read is because of how this book made me feel like 3 years ago when I started reading. The feeling this book gave me is a feeling that I chase with reading. Like, I literally want to read something this good all the time. But if you are caught up with these right here and you're looking for something just as good by Taylor Jenkins Reid, then I highly recommend this one right here. Like, I've literally never cried harder with the book than I did with this one. Like, never. I've never cried that hard, not even with Seven Husbands. But aside from how much this book broke me and how much I cried because of this book, I was really able to appreciate how beautiful of a story it is. It's actually insane how beautiful of a story it is. This story takes you through a choice that a girl has to make, but it's like the most unfair choice of all time. The story starts out with Emma and Jesse. They are high school sweethearts. They are so in love with each other. They are perfect for each other, and then life gets in the way in the most unfair way possible. Jesse has an accident on a helicopter where the helicopter goes down, and both him and the pilot are presumed dead. Years later, after being single for a while, Emma actually falls in love again with this guy named Sam, which is an amazing guy. And on the day that Sam and Emma get engaged, she gets a call from Jesse saying that he's been living on an island all of these years, trying to survive, trying to come back home to her, and he basically says, I'm coming home to you. And between Jesse and Sam, that is a choice that Emma has to make. Everything about this book hurts, but everything about this book is beautiful. The grief that she goes through, the reunion, the choice, everything is so incredibly good. If you want a book to make you feel every emotion possible, this is the one. Okay, this is my last recommendation of the video, and it just so happens to be a series. This is the very, very popular book talk series, the Twisted series, which just so happens to be one of my favorite series literally ever. Also, if you can't tell, I'm rereading the 4th book because it's literally my favorite book in the series, and every time I'm not liking the book that I'm currently reading, I'll go back to this one and just read a little bit of it. But anyways, this is a Twisted series by Anna Huang. It's a 4-book series, but they are standalone, so you can read them individually. Like if the 3rd book sounds interesting to you but you don't want to read the 1st and the 2nd, you don't have to. You can just read that one and it'll make sense. Basically, the series is about a group of 4 friends, and each book is each of the friends' love story. Something I loved about it is that each book has a different trope. First book is Twisted Love, which is brother's best friend. Second book is a bodyguard love story. She's also a princess in that one, so that one's one of my favorites. Third book is Twisted Hate, and this one is Enemies to Lovers. And the 4th book is Twisted Lies, and this one is Fake Dating. Something I feel like I have to say is that my least favorite in the whole series was Twisted Love. Not that it was bad at all, but I feel like I enjoyed the rest of the series so much better. And so if for any reason you've read the first one and it wasn't really your cup of tea and you didn't read the rest, I highly, highly, highly recommend you keep reading, especially because in the second one, it gets so much better. Also, these books are so great because they are the epitome of men written by women. You will literally fall in love with every single one of these book boyfriends. They're so good. But yeah, Twisted series, I'm obsessed with it. I loved it. That is it. That is all the recommendations and all the books I'm going to be talking about today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you stayed all the way to the end, thank you guys so much. If you're new to my channel, definitely subscribe. Also follow me on Instagram because I'm always posting my current reads on there and what I think about them when I finish them, and my Goodreads. I'm also going to link that down below. Also comment down below, what is the best book that you've read because of book talk. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I will see you guys in my next vlog. Bye.